Hey everyone, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Oral Reports. You know, the 4th of July weekend made me think back to one of my favorite stage musicals, Meredith Willson's The Music Man. Based on a story by Willson and Franklin Lacey, the plot concerns a con man named Harold Hill who poses as a boys band organizer and leader, and he sells band instruments, uniforms, and instruction books to naive Midwestern townsfolk, promising to train the members of the new band. Unfortunately, Harold is no musician, and he plans to skip town without giving any music lessons. Prim librarian and piano teacher Marion Peru sees right through him, but when Harold helps her younger brother Winthrop overcome his lisp and social awkwardness, Marion begins to fall in love with him. Also, Harold risks being caught to win her. In 1957, the show became an instant hit on Broadway, winning 5 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, and running for about 1,375 performances. The cast album won the first Grammy Award for Best Musical Theater Album and spent 245 weeks on the Billboard charts. The show's success led to revivals, including a long-running 2000 Broadway revival, a popular 1962 film adaptation, and a 2003 TV adaptation by Disney. It is also frequently produced by both professional and amateur theater companies. The first time I was introduced to Music Man was way back in spring 2002 during my second choir performance, A World of Entertainment, which had 76 trombones. But then I was properly introduced to the show in 2005 during drama class at La Paz Intermediate, where I was cast as one of the school board members, Oliver Hicks. Thanks to my former drama teacher, Don Doherty, who also influenced me to join Musical Theater Village a few months later. And while Music Man was fun during my junior high age, doing it at Musical Theater Village had some ups and downs. You see, my first time performing in Music Man with Musical Theater Village was during summer 2006, and sadly, that wasn't as fun, because I was cast as one of Tommy Gillis' gang members. Plus, 2006 wasn't really my favorite year. Thankfully, in 2014, a few months after my leg's first surgery, I got to be a Music Man the second time with Musical Theater Village, and it was a much better experience for me. Why? Because I got to be 3 characters. 1, a traveling salesman during the train scene. 2, a constable. And 3, the train conductor. Plus, one of my theater friends, John Shalhope, gave me this pocket watch in order to remember that fun experience. However, this year, after performing in such wonderful shows like Annie Get Your Gun and The Addams Family, me and my friends got to do Music Man all throughout June, and to be honest, while it was fun performing as Charlie Cowell, June was kind of a mixed bag for me this year. Not only because of the cloudy weather, but because I got sick with a fever, which was followed by a pink eye. And I hear the next shows that my friends are going to be doing are High School Musical and James and the Giant Peach. But those are subjects for later episodes. Anyway, to me, While I do think the 2003 TV special of Music Man does stick very closely to its stage counterpart, today I'll be blogging its 1962 film adaptation. So, let's get started. Released on June 19th, 1962, the movie is, well, The Music Man. So, let's strike up the band, shall we? When Harold Hill arrives in River City, Iowa, he convinces the locals to start a band by purchasing the uniforms, instruments, and instruction books from him. His intention is to flee as soon as he receives the money. However, librarian Marion Peru suspects Harold as a fraud, but holds her tongue since her moody brother Winthrop is excited about the band. As Harold begins to develop feelings for Marion, he faces a very difficult decision about skipping town. So, what do I personally think of the movie? Well, despite a few changes from its stage version, I loved this film during my junior high age, and I still love it to this very day. But, to further explain why, let's move on to Mustang notes. Unusual for a musical film at the time, Morton DaCosta, who had directed the stage version of the show, not only directed the movie, but also produced it as well, ensuring that the film was faithful to the show. And in my opinion, I think Morton did a great job directing this movie. Also, this film became the 5th highest grossing film of 1962. For the final parade scene, Jack L. Warner selected the University of Southern California's marching band, the Spirit of Troy. Many junior high school students from Southern California were also included, forming the majority of the band. It took approximately 8 hours of shooting for over 2 days to film the scene. All the musical instruments for the production were specially made for the film by the Olds Instrument Company in Fullerton, California. The instruments were then refurbished and sold by Olds with no indication that they were ever used in the movie. Now let's talk about the setting. And I really love how River City, Iowa looks in this film. And believe it or not, the town is based on Meredith Willson's birthplace, Mason City, Iowa. And many of the musical's characters are based on people that Willson observed in that town. The river in River City is probably the Mississippi River near Davenport, Iowa. Also, the year 1912 was the time of relative innocence, as recalled in 1957 after 2 world wars, the Great Depression, and the arrival of atomic weapons. Also, I do like the certain places in town, like the fairgrounds, the city hall, the school, even the library. Plus, the musical includes numerous references to popular culture of the time. For example, while making his pitch, Harold Hill lists popular musicians and composers like Gilmore, Pat Conway, Giuseppe Creatore, W.C. Handy, John Philip Sousa during 76 trombones. Also, some of the cultural references are anachronistic. Like, during the Trouble song, it contains references to both Captain Billy's Whiz Bang, which was a monthly humor magazine that did not begin publication until October 1919, and the non-alcoholic near beer Bevo, which was first brewed in 1916. In addition, Rafael Mendes, referred to by Hill as O. Mendes, a great Irish trumpeter, was 6 years old in 1912. The show even mentions other famous people like Shakespeare and Beethoven. Also, there are a few lines in the film that are very memorable to me, like this one.
Cigarettes illegal in this state.
Man, makes me wish that cigarettes were illegal everywhere. Plus, some of the other lines featured are certain phrases that folks these days do not use anymore. Now, let's talk about a few of the songs that stick out to me the most in the film. First, there's Rock Island, or the train scene. To me, this is a song that acts like a conversation between the several salesmen, including Charlie Cowell. Plus, this song does feel very difficult to memorize. However, there is a verse that talks about a present-day modern departmentalized grocery store that's missing from the film's version of the song. Then we have Iowa Stubborn, sung by the citizens of River City, who persuade Harold Hill to give Iowa a try. They even sing about their chip-on-the-shoulder attitude. There are two things about this song that are pretty interesting. Firstly, halfway through the song, we see a farmer, which is another character I played, along with his wife, standing inside a wooden frame doing a solo. And if you guys are familiar with art, then you might know that their pose is referencing the American Gothic painting. Secondly, there are 9 Iowan cities that are mentioned nearing the end of the song, which are Hawkeye, Dubuque, Des Moines, Davenport, Marshalltown, Mason City, Keokuk, Ames, and Clear Lake. Now, these cities make me think back to the time when I had to do a USA Capital quiz during my junior high years. Next we have Goodnight My Someone, which I find is a very beautiful and sweet lullaby song. And it gets a reprise with 76 trombones nearing the end of the show. Next we come to Pick a Little Talk a Little, sung by Eulalie McKechnie Shin and the other Pick a Little ladies. To me, the melody of this song makes the ladies sound like a bunch of chickens or hens. But anyway, during the song, the ladies tell Harold about Marion Peru, who had, well, an affair with the now deceased miser Madison, who willed the library building to the town, but left all the books to her. And they even warn Harold that she advocates dirty books by Chaucer, Rabelais, and Balzac. Also to note, while in the original show, this song is sung twice, but in the movie, it's only sung one time. Our next song is called Being in Love, which is a replacement song for My White Knight from the stage show. However, the middle verse of My White Knight is kept, thank goodness. Still, I feel like this song is very sympathetic, and it's also very sweet. Next we come to Gary, Indiana, which describes the place where Harold Hill came from. In this movie, Gary, Indiana is sung twice compared to its stage version, once by Harold and the other by Winthrop. And to be honest, between the two versions, I like Winthrop's cover the best. Next is the Wells Fargo Wagon song. This is one of my favorite songs in the show. However, when I first heard it back in 2005, it kind of made me think back to that bank of the same name. And I'm also surprised that the Animaniacs made a parody of this song for Wacko's Wish. We also have the Shapoopy song, sung by Marcellus Washburn during the fairgrounds scene, and the love song, Till There Was You. And now let's move on to the cast. Our titular music man for the film, Professor Harold Hill, is played by Robert Preston, whom I've seen in The Last Starfighter. In my eyes, even though he is a fraud of a music professor, I think he's a very enthusiastic and crafty character, and I think Robert Preston gives Harold tons of flair, especially during several songs like Trouble and 76 Trombones. Plus, I like how he shows his feelings for Marion during Marion the Librarian and Sadder But Wiser Girl. Next we come to Marion Peru, played by the legendary Shirley Jones, who has been in Oklahoma, Carousel, The Partridge Family, and of course, Christmas Is Here Again. Marion is the librarian and piano teacher in town. At first, she seems like a no-nonsense kind of woman who's not so easily drawn into Harold's band pitch. But after seeing her brother Winthrop happy, Marion starts to become smitten with Harold. Also, I think Shirley Jones' singing is really amazing, especially during songs like Good Night My Someone and Will I Ever Tell You? Next is Harold Hill's closest friend, Marcellus Washburn, played by Buddy Hackett. Best known from The Love Bug, the 1979 Jack Frost special, and of course, the two Little Mermaid films. In my eyes, Marcellus is a very memorable character, though I still wonder how he knows Harold before the story began. Anyway, I also think Marcellus is very loyal, and I do like the scene where he tells Harold about Marion along with the new pool table. Plus, I think his girlfriend, Ethel Toffelmeyer, is a very nice woman. Our next character is Mayor George Shinn, played by Paul Ford, who got to voice Uncle Henry in Journey Back to Oz before he passed away in 1976. Now, in my eyes, the mayor seems to be the most stubborn and suspicious out of all the people in River City. Plus, he can be very overprotective of his two daughters. Also to note, George owns the billiard parlor and the new pool table, according to the constable. His wife, Eulalie McKetney Shinn, is played by Hermione Gingold, whom, during the same year, voiced Madame Rubenschott in Chuck Jones' Gay Paris. In my eyes, while her singing isn't really that great, and she has a bunion that bothers her, I think Eulalie is another memorable character, especially during the scene where she trains her ladies for the Grecian Urns dance. Also, this may be a bit off topic, but I think Hermione Gingold's acting makes Eulalie sound like Dr. Wakeman, considering the fact that I saw this movie after I watched My Life as a Teenage Robot on TV. Marion's mother, Widow Peru, is played by the late Pert Kelton. What I like about her, aside from her Irish history, is that throughout the show, she tries to convince her daughter to find someone special to spend her life with. Also, I think it's pretty sweet that she makes all of Winthrop's clothing. Speaking of which, next we come to Marion's little brother, Winthrop, played by a young Ron Howard, who'd later act in American Graffiti and Village of the Giants, and he later directed such wonderful movies like Splash, How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey, and of course, Solo, a Star Wars story. I find Winthrop to be a very relatable character. For example, his lisp reminds me of how I used to talk when I was his age. Plus, I think Winthrop is a very wonderful kid, and the reason why Harold wanted him in the band is so that he'd quit moping around and feeling sorry for himself. Next we have Marion's student, Amaryllis, played by Monique Vermont. While she doesn't have that many scenes, I think she's a very sweet little girl, and I really like her friendship with Winthrop. We also have the school board, Olin Britt, Oliver Hicks, Ewart Dunlop, and J.C. Squires. Played by the Buffalo Bills, Vern Reed, Al Shea, Wayne Scotty Ward, and Bill Spangenberg. Now, these guys are my favorite characters in the whole show. At first, they seem to bicker with each other due to their 15 years of hating each other. They're also assigned by the mayor to get Harold's credentials. However, thanks to Hill getting them to sing barbershop quartet style with such songs like Ice Cream, Insincere, Good Night Ladies, and Light a Rose, not only do they forget about getting his papers, but they also become closer together as friends. Our next character is Tommy Gillis, played by Timmy Everett. Tommy is the most mischievous character in the entire show. However, as the audience, we only see him use a firecracker during the 4th of July town meeting. Later, Harold Hill assigns Tommy as his assistant and to invent a music holder for a marching piccolo player. However, in this movie, instead of saying Geely Cly, Tommy says Great Honk. We also have the mayor's oldest daughter, Zanita, played by Susan Lucky. I could also talk about her sister Gracie, but she's barely in this. Anyway, I think Zanita is a very perky girl, and I think her relationship with Tommy is really sweet, even though her dad is not comfortable with her being around the wild kid. Also, Zanita has a real habit of saying ye gods throughout the show. Our last character to talk about is Charlie Cowell, Anvil salesman, played by Harry Hickox. In the show, Charlie vows during the train scene that he'll catch up with Harold Hill, and he plans to expose him as the fraud that he really is. As for my experience as Cowell, well, to me, it was pretty similar to my role as Mac in Annie Get Your Gun. Not only because I had to carry a heavy suitcase, which I think was about 15 or 25 pounds, I don't know, but also because I unintentionally get kissed by a female lead. Also, the scene where Charlie rants to the whole town about Harold's true intentions was pretty hard for me, because yelling could leave a big impact on my voice. Plus, the part where Charlie says that Harold has met 102 girls in Illinois, it pretty much makes Harold Hill pretty similar to Tramp from Disney's Lady and the Tramp. And now let's move on to my final words. Overall, despite a few changes in the script and a few of the songs, this film version of Meredith Willson's classic stage musical is, well, truly a classic. The sets are wonderful, the acting is very superb, especially with Robert Preston and Shirley Jones. Other characters like Marcellus, Winthrop, and Tommy are very memorable. Same goes for the school board and the Pick a Little ladies. The songs are, well, in my opinion, fun and classical, and the choreography is really outstanding. If you folks love classical movie musicals like Oklahoma, then you should definitely pick this movie up as well and watch it with your family. I give this film a full 100%. Well, that's all for now. But before I go, I need to show all of you viewers something very special, which is shown right above me. Now, this is no ordinary USA flag. Believe it or not, this flag was flown over Washington, D.C. about 10 Independence Days ago. And on the day of my Eagle Court of Honor, which was on March 7th, 2010, the American government gave it to me. And to this day, this flag has been a very special thing for me. And if those guys are watching this video right now, I would like to thank them for this very special flag. Anyway, as for the rest of you guys at home, be sure to tune in again next time. Mustang Power. Oh, and happy Independence Day. Thank you.